NXT is way better than the WWE.
You know, I feel like we say this every single time there is one of these weekends where there's a big WWE pay-per-view following an NXT Takeover show. We always say, good luck. Good luck to the main roster. Well, this is another one of those weekends, and I would say good luck to the Survivor Series tonight, because you're going to need it. Coming off this NXT Takeover show, this was WarGames. WarGames 2 from the Staples Center in Los Angeles. They are in LA at the Staples Center for the next 4 nights, including Raw and SmackDown. So it's one of these big weekends they do, I think, 4 times a year. And I can tell you that this TakeOver show will go down as one of the greatest TakeOver specials that WWE has ever produced. Perhaps even the best. I'd have to really think on that. There weren't a whole lot of matches on this show, and that helps. You know, the fewer matches you have, if those matches deliver, all of a sudden you could have, you know, the best show of all time on your hands. I think of all the takeovers, this has to be in contention for one of the best, top to bottom, just in terms of match quality and, you know, everything that they put out there pretty much delivered. Some delivered more than others, but this was an outstanding show from the beginning all the way down to the WarGames main event. Let's jump right into it here, because on the pre-show, we had Matt Riddle. They had him join the panel. He was talking, and Cassius Ohno interrupted, and Cassius, you know, made mention of him exposing Matt Riddle in 1 second, basically saying it wouldn't take him very long to expose him and embarrass him. Now, this match was supposed to take place tonight. They were going to tape the match between them and air it on NXT television on Wednesday. So I don't know what the plan is now as far as, you know, what they're going to do with the NXT show that's coming up that they're going to be airing. But what they did instead was all just a swerve. They ran an angle where at the beginning of the actual TakeOver event, Matt Riddle's music hit. He came out to the ring and he cut a little promo, and he said that, you know, Cassius Ohno was talking trash. He doesn't want to wait until Wednesday. He basically called him out. He says, not only do we have 1 ring here, we've got 2. So why wait till Wednesday? So right off the bat here at the beginning of the show, we had an impromptu match. Cassius Ohno came out. And as soon as he got into the ring, and as soon as that bell rang, Riddle nailed him with a running knee and pinned him in 6 seconds flat. That was it. 1 and done. Quick win here for Matt Riddle. You can't really come up with a better way to put over a new guy as strongly as they put him over here. Cassius Ohno is a very giving person. He's a utility player. That's what he is. You know, he's in the player coach role right now in NXT. I don't see him moving on up to the main roster. I think he's a good person to have in NXT and at the Performance Center. That's the role that he fills. His job is to help, you know, get people over, like a Keith Lee or a Matt Riddle. Although I don't think Keith Lee and Matt Riddle are going to need a whole lot of people helping them get over. But he gave of himself here, and he made Matt Riddle look like $1 million. Matt Riddle was over like crazy with the fans here in LA. And this was great for what it was. Again, the match was nothing. It was more an angle than anything else. But if you want to get a new guy over, well, there's one way to do it. The first real match of the show, it was the 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Women's Championship. Shayna Baszler defending against the former champion Kairi Sane. And right out of the gate, Sane just, you know, goes right at her with a drop kick in the corner. So all action so far to start the show. You know, they're not wasting any time getting into all this action, quick opening match here. Right out of the gate, Kairi goes after her. And we had Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir, the other horsewomen. They did not waste much time in coming out, interfering. They played right into the first fall. Went right after Kairi with the referee's back turn, beat her up. Threw her back into the ring. Baszler got her in the choke and got the submission for the first fall. And so now we move on to fall number 2 here in this match. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, you know, there aren't very many matches on this show. You don't really have to speed through this match here. I didn't know how, you know, long they were going to give to that third and final fall. But the highlight for me of this match came in the second fall. They did this spot where Shayna Baszler was out in the apron with Kairi. She was attempting to give her a suplex, a vertical suplex on the apron. which, in case you guys don't know, is the hardest part of the ring. I'm sure you haven't heard that before. So she tries to give her a suplex. Kairi reverses it, but she didn't just reverse it and suplex her on the apron. She reversed it in such a way where she basically gave Shayna a spiked DDT on the apron. This looked sick, but it was a hell of a move. And Kairi went up top. She hit a giant elbow, her big insane elbow off the top, out to the floor, took everybody out, and then got Shayna back in the ring, hit the insane elbow, and got the pin. So they were all knotted up, one fall apiece, and that led to fall number 3. Kairi was a house of fire here. And there was another cool spot here where they're in the corner, and they're up top, and Shayna goes to give her sort of a gut buster off the top. Kairi ends up countering it into power bomb for a close near fall. We had Kairi go up for another elbow. Marina Shafir, Jessamine Duke, once again, sticking their nose here in this match. Dakota Kai ran out to try to even the odds a little bit. She got beaten down. Then Io Shirai ran out. She went up top, hit a gigantic moonsault, wiped everybody out on the floor. And we had Kairi go for the insane elbow one more time, and this was the finish here. Interesting finish that they did here, where Kairi came off the top for the elbow, and as she landed and made contact, Shayna didn't sell the elbow at all. Instead, she grabbed her, basically on the way down, and took her over, kind of, I guess it was like a crucifix, and got the pin. So, I will say this, the only criticism I have of this, because I love this match, the only criticism I have is that it was too short. Especially, you've got that 2 out of 3 fall stipulation, and this is a criticism I have of a lot of 2 out of 3 falls matches I see, usually on the main roster in WWE, in the past anyway, is that they'll do 2 out of 3 falls, I think, for the sake of just doing it. We want to have a special stip, we'll do 2 out of 3 falls. And so, invariably, what ends up happening? One guy wins the first fall in 2 minutes. The next guy comes back and wins the next fall in 2.5 minutes. And then they'll go on and have a 10-minute match. It's like, well, what was the point of even having 2 out of 3 fall stip in the first place? And I just hate it when they do that. This was not quite as bad, although, again, it was more rushed than I would have liked for it to be. The match only went about 10 minutes. I think it would have really benefited them to have an extra 5 minutes or so. That being said, it's a small critique. The interference didn't bother me. I saw some people shitting on the match. Oh, overbooked mess, interference. No, didn't bother me at all. That's Shayna's thing now. She's got her 2 friends with her. Now they're going to work, obviously, a match or a program where Kairi has Dakota Kai with her and Io Shirai. At the very least, I would think we'll get a 6-person tag on TV soon. But that's the only criticism I have. I thought this match was excellent. We had Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano. You would not be wrong if you called this the match of the night. I know a lot of people are going to say that this was, in their opinion, the best match of the night. You would not be wrong in thinking that. But think about this. If you did think that this was the match of the night, think about this. This match was the result of an injury to Aleister Black over the summer that caused a change in plans. Originally, it was going to be a triple threat match in Brooklyn back in August. For the NXT Championship, it was going to be Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, and Aleister Black. And I'm sure that would have been a hell of a match. And at a live event, it was Ciampa against Black. Black got hurt, he needed surgery, and all of a sudden their plans went up in smoke and they had to come up with a different plan. So they ended up doing this whodunit angle. We've had a whole bunch of these in the history of WWE. Remember Rikishi did it for The Rock, right? We've seen this a few times in the past. And these could either be really, really bad or they can be really, really good. This turned out to be a fantastic angle because they played it well. They played, you didn't know who it was going to be. There were a couple of viable options and, Regal had his investigation and we got some entertaining segments out of it. But it was a great way to kill time and drag this thing out and give Aleister Black time to heal and give him something to do when he was ready to come back. And the big culmination of this, of course, was finding out that it was Johnny Gargano, and Johnny had been straddling the line between face and heel for a while, but this was what pushed him over the edge and basically turned him heel. I didn't think he was going to be the one, so they got me. I thought it was going to be Cassius Ohno, or somebody else. So it was a nice little twist there at the end. And, from the moment Black came back and Nikki Cross whispered in his ear who it was, I just was a big, big fan of the way they played this angle out. But think about this. That whodunit angle got them weeks and weeks worth of television. And it all culminated in this match here. So if you thought this was the match of the night, or maybe even a strong contender, frankly, for match of the year in WWE, remember that it only came about as a happy accident, which, to me anyway, makes it even more impressive. Aleister Black, I gotta say this, he looked to be in great shape. Better than when we last saw him. He looked like he either slimmed down or toned up. Had a tan. He was rocking a tan. He had a new jacket with spikes on it. He looked like a new man out there. Johnny Gargano looked like he was out there enjoying himself in the heel role. First time he's been a heel, I think, since probably back in his indie days when he was in Evolve and wrestling in those promotions. He was mocking Aleister Black. He sat cross-legged in the middle of the ring at one point. Black went for a cabrata. Gargano shoved him out to the floor. This is about midway into the match. Gargano then goes for a suicide dive, goes for a tope through the ropes, and as he dives through the ropes to the outside, Aleister just absolutely destroys him with a knee to the face. Put him back in the ring. Black follows him inside. Gargano is just clutching at Aleister's boots, trying to will himself back up to his feet. And he's whispering to Aleister Black. He's basically saying, go ahead, do it. Hit me with the black man, or the, black man. Put me out of my misery. And he sets up for the black mass kick. Of course, it was all just a ruse. Gargano tried to roll him up for a near fall. And Johnny put the Gargano escape on. This was the second time in the match he had put the Gargano escape on. Aleister countered that into an attempted roll-up for a near fall. Couple of big knees by Aleister Black, and finally he hits the Black Mass. Big roundhouse kick connects, and the only thing holding up Johnny Gargano is Aleister Black, because he falls forward right into Black and basically is leaning on him for support. And there was great storytelling in this match. These guys were talking trash and whispering to each other at different points in the match. And at this point, you can see and hear Aleister Black say to him, basically, he tells Johnny, I forgive you. I forgive you for your sins. And then he gives him a second Black Mass kick right to the face, knocks him out, gets the pin. I thought this was a fantastic match. Absolutely fantastic. I don't do star ratings or anything like that, but this was, as close to perfect, I think, as you could have expected this match to be. And I don't know that there's even a need, frankly, to continue on with this. I mean, not that I wouldn't mind seeing these two wrestle again, but kind of like with Aleister and Velveteen Dream at the WarGames show last year. Once he beat him and said his name when the match was over, much as I wanted to see it again, there was really no need to revisit it. And the two of them sort of moved on in opposite directions. And I would think that there's no reason not to do that here too, but I guess we'll find out this week if they keep the two of them together or not. We have the Velveteen Dream challenging Tommaso Ciampa. First time Dream was getting a shot at the NXT Championship. This right here was my match of the night. This is the match I picked as my favorite match of the show. It had a little bit of everything, but it was neck and neck with the Gargano and Aleister Black match, but I'm going with this one. Dream came out dressed up as Hollywood Hogan, black and white from the NWO days. He had the boa. He had the Hogan shirt with the ripples in the back. He was doing the Hogan poses, cupping the ear to the audience. This is the second time that Velveteen Dream has cosplayed as a version of Hulk Hogan at a WarGames event. Last year, Takeover WarGames, remember that? With his match with Aleister Black, he was donning the red and yellow. And here it was the black and white of the NWO. I can't tell if he's doing it to troll Hogan or to pay homage to him. I'm thinking it's the latter and not the former. I do remember on that season of Tough Enough that Dream was on, Hogan was a judge. At least until everything sort of went south and I think they replaced him on the show. But up to a certain point, Hogan was a judge on that season of Tough Enough. And I think he put Dream in the bottom of whatever it was that particular week, like he ranked him very low. And I think it went to a fan vote, and the fans there weren't enough fan votes for Patrick Clark, and he got voted off the island. I don't fucking know these reality shows. But he got eliminated. And I remember, though, in explaining why he did what he did, Hogan had some pretty positive things to say about him. So my guess is that this is really just his way of sort of paying respect to Hulk Hogan. I don't think he's mocking him necessarily, but again, that's just a guess on my part. They made it a point, the announcers did, as Triple H did after the show when he did his little press conference, to harp on the fact that Velveteen Dream is only 23 years old. And he is as good as he is at the age of 23. Now, to be fair to the UK guys, because I talk up the UK guys a lot, they're even better, and they're as young or younger than Velveteen Dream is. So it must be something in the water over there in the UK. I don't know what it is. Tyler Bate, from the moment I saw him wrestling in NXT and the matches with Pete Dunne and all that kid is just incredible. And I think he's only, 21? I think maybe now here in this country he can drink as of this year. Pete Dunne just turned 25. He's WWE's longest reigning champion of any kind, I think, in the last 10 or 15, maybe 20 years. 500 and something days as the UK champion. But I thought that this was the best Velveteen Dream match that he has had so far his entire run in NXT. I thought in this match he looked great. In a lot of his earlier matches, there was a little bit of, hesitation. I don't know. There were moments of tentativeness, when he would try certain moves. He was almost like telegraphing certain moves. I didn't get that as much, if at all, here in this match. And Ciampa, look, Ciampa's a pro. Ciampa's one of the best going right now. He's not a bad dance partner for him to have. I thought these two guys worked great together. I really do. I'd like to see them do it again at some point. Dream, so not only was he dressed as Hogan, but at different parts of the match, he was attempting to mimic Hulk Hogan maneuvers. And so he hit the big boot. At one point, he hit 3 Hogan leg drops. Didn't win with it, but he hit the leg drops. Hit a spine buster for a near fall. And then he started going after Ciampa's knee. The knee that had the brace on it. The surgically repaired knee. Started going after that. He put the old Bret Hart figure 4 leg lock around the post. I don't think I've seen that move used since Bret Hart did. Somebody must have used it in WWE, since then. I find it hard to believe it's been 21 years since anybody in this company has used that move, but if they did, I don't remember it. I used to love that move when Bret would do it. He would wrap the guy's legs around the post and put the figure 4 on, and so yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time, and Dream used that move here in this match. Now, I also mentioned that because it was an important spot in the match. The referee went outside the ring, I think, to tell Velveteen Dream to let go. When he did that, we got a shot of Tommaso Ciampa inside the ring. He was in agony. He was tapping out. Referee didn't see it. And I think the announcers did mention it, but then after that, it was never mentioned again. We'll see if that gets mentioned on TV this week, because that right there, I think, could be the impetus to do a rematch, maybe on television in 2 or 3 weeks on NXT between these two guys. Dream went for a super kick. Ciampa moved. He rolled up Dream using the tights. Referee caught him, though. And Dream here did the old Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels spot where his ass was hanging out. Took him a while to finally pull his pants up. Dream hit a super kick, rolling DVD for a near fall. He went to the top rope. Ciampa caught him with a knee. Hit Project Ciampa, which is his power bomb into the backcracker finish for a near fall. Again, if I had one knock on this match, and I think it's relatively minor, there was a lot of kicking out of finishers here in this match. This was like an old Ring of Honor match where everybody would kick out of everybody's finish 15 times. And the thing that always irked me about those matches, these guys were hitting some unbelievable moves and kicking out. And then in a lot of those matches, it would end on a simple clothesline. Like a lariat. Somebody would hit a lariat or some move that really wasn't overly impressive. And it's really? That's what you win the match with? That wasn't the case here. But yeah, if I had, again, one small knock I think they went a little overboard with kicking out of the finishes. I mean, it's fine to do it a few times. When you get to 5, 6, 7 times, probably a bit much. But yeah, he kicked out of that. So then Ciampa sets up for a draping DDT. He had gone outside the ring, pulled up the ring mats to expose the concrete. Now he's going to DDT Dream on the concrete. Dream, he gets on his feet, so he avoids the DDT, and basically shoves Ciampa backwards. They both go flying over the announce desk. And as they're getting to their feet, you hear Mauro Ranallo on commentary. He's talking about Tommaso Ciampa and all the things he did to Johnny Gargano and what a sick SOB he is. And Ciampa heard him. Again, Mauro couldn't have been more than 5 feet, if that, away from Ciampa. And calling him an SOB, not exactly the smartest move on his part. He grabbed something. I don't know what it was, if it was a piece of paper or what it was. Ciampa grabbed something off the announce desk. He turned around. He threw it right in Mauro's face. That shut him up for a good 10 seconds. But as he turned around, he got caught with a rolling DDT on the concrete by Velveteen Dream. And this, to me, was the best part of the entire match. So he hits this DVD on the concrete, right? People going nuts. He rolls him into the ring, immediately goes up to the top, hits a gigantic flying elbow, the Purple Rainmaker. Off the top, he connects with it. The old Randy Savage elbow, and he got the biggest near fall of the night out of that move. Even I bought into it. Even I thought it was over at that point. And I predicted Ciampa was going to win because I figured it's way too early to take the championship off of him. But in that moment, they got me. I wanted this match to be over so bad after he hit that elbow. And Ciampa kicked out. But man, if he would have gotten the 3 count, that place would have gone apeshit if he would have won the championship at that moment. So now Ciampa's, hanging off the ring apron. Because after he kicked out, he didn't fall out of the ring, but he was sort of laying on the bottom rope. His half his body was sort of hanging on the apron outside the ring. Dream immediately goes back up to the top rope, and he goes for a second elbow drop. But this time he missed. Ciampa rolled out of the way, and Dream crashed and burned on the floor. And he was selling this like he broke his elbow. He was in agony, and Ciampa went and brought him back into the ring, gave him a draping DDT on the metal grate. They had 2 rings, obviously, for WarGames. There was a metal grate like you would see in the aisleway on the ramp, separating the 2 rings, gave him a DDT on that, dragged him back into the middle of the ring and pinned him. And Tommaso Ciampa retains his championship. Gave Velveteen Dream a little kiss on the cheek when the match was over. This was fantastic. I love this match. These 2 matches in particular, back-to-back, the Black and Gargano in this one, you're going to be hard-pressed, whether it's Survivor Series or some other pay-per-view, to find a 1-2 punch like these 2 matches here. And if you did say that these 2 were 2 of the best matches in the company all year, I wouldn't argue with you. But what I also love, Velveteen Dream not only challenging his inner Hulk Hogan in this match, but channeling his inner Randy Savage. And not just with the elbow off the top, but also, I don't know if you noticed, he did the old Randy Savage move that killed Savage's knees for years after doing it for so long, where he would grab his opponent by the head or the hair, he would run to the ropes, and he would do a dive. He would jump out over the top rope and basically drape his opponent's throat over the top rope. And so he did that move in this match, and he also did another Savage specialty, which was when Savage would go up to the top, and he would do a double axe handle down to the floor. He hit a double axe handle to the floor. Those 2 moves right there were staples of Randy Savage's matches for much of his career, and so it's no wonder that his knees turned to jelly. But Dream is he's a special performer. I do wonder if they're going to call him up soon. Just a feeling I have. I think it's far too early. I mean, for all this talk about how, he's only 23, all the more reason to let him stay down there in NXT for a while longer. So I really hope they don't call him up yet, but I don't know. I could see Vince McMahon wanting to do something with him soon. There have been rumblings of 1 or 2 NXT call-ups coming soon, and so I wouldn't count him out just yet. Main event was the WarGames match. It was Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders taking on the Undisputed Era. 2 rings, 1 cage, no top, no coin flip. But it is WarGames. I wanted WarGames back for so long. And now that we have it, it would be hard for me not to enjoy it, right? What a hypocrite I would be if I said I didn't like WarGames. After all these years, I've been crowing about it on the podcast. Plus, it's hard to fuck up a WarGames match. Like, you'd have to really go out of your way, I think, to put either really bad people in this match or just completely screw up the rules. So last year's WarGames match I thought was great. I thought this year's match was pretty much on par with that one. But it's funny, last year it had been 17, I think, right? 17 years since the last WarGames match in a major promo. I know some indies did their version of WarGames over the years, like in the mid-2000s. But the last WCW WarGames match was in 2000 when Russo was there, and that one sucked. But that was the last one. It had been 17 years since we got a real WarGames match. And then this summer, like last year, they brought it back for NXT. This summer, MLW on their Fusion show, they had their own WarGames match that was pretty good. And now here we go with another one here. It's like we went from no WarGames matches to too many WarGames matches. But I would put this on par with last year's, which the Undisputed Era won. I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more than I did last year. I wasn't really a fan of the 3-team format that they used last year. I like it better like this, where it's traditional 4-on-4, just one team against the other. We had Adam Cole and Ricochet starting for their respective teams. 5 minutes until the next man comes out. Of course, Undisputed Era had the man advantage. They won that when Kyle O'Reilly beat Hanson of the Road Warriors, the War Raiders on TV last week. And so once Kyle O'Reilly came out next, it was basically every 3 minutes they would alternate until all the participants were called in. And the WarGames, we were told, would not officially begin until everybody was inside the cage. Pinfall or submission only if you try to escape. If you fall out of the cage, your team would forfeit and be eliminated. So those were the rules. So, like I said, Cole, Ricochet, they started. Kyle O'Reilly was out next. Pete Dunne wanted to come out next for his team, but Hanson stopped him, and he went to the cage instead. Now, Pete Dunne suffered a foot injury about 6 weeks ago. At the time, they said, it's a minor injury. He maybe won't even miss much time. In the meantime, I don't think he's wrestled a match in the last 6 weeks. If I'm wrong, somebody will let me know. Maybe he wrestled, in the UK or something. But to my knowledge, I don't believe he's wrestled since the injury. So obviously, if they thought it was minor, it turned out to not be as minor as they thought. And so he's been out. And I think tonight was his first match back. Clearly, they were trying to keep him out of this match as long as they possibly could and not have him doing anything too crazy out there. They protected him as best he could. I mean, considering it's a friggin' WarGames match, you can only do so much. His right knee was all taped up from the angle. He got attacked on TV last week. I'm sure that the wrapping of the knee was just a cover. I assume that's the leg where he injured the foot. So if he had to, limp or anything like that, people would think it was the knee, when in reality it's actually his foot that was hurt. So just some quick highlights here, because this is a long match. This match from start to finish was almost 50 minutes. I think it was like 47 or 48 minutes long, which is what happens when you only have, originally they only announced 4 matches for this thing. I mean, you could add the Matt Riddle match in, but that went 6 seconds, right? So that doesn't really count. But there was a point in the match where Hanson, who's very athletic for a big guy, he does the cartwheels and all this other shit. But there was this one sequence where he did a series of running clotheslines from one corner to the other. So one corner had O'Reilly, the other corner had Cole, back and forth. And I made the comment on Twitter. I said, if nobody gifts this to make it look like an infinite loop of him just running back and forth, then something is wrong here. And then almost immediately I saw the WWE Universe Twitter or something put like a GIF up that basically showed that him running back and forth. So that didn't take very long. Ricochet at one point hit a shooting star press off of Hanson's back onto Kyle O'Reilly, because of course he did. Roderick Strong was in next for the Undisputed Era. Pete Dunne wanted in when his team came up next, and yet again, he was told, no, Ray Rowe of the War Raiders is going to come out. And he went to the ring instead, and he left the shark cage. And he was also pretty impressive in this match. He hit this combination power bomb. So he had one guy up for a power bomb, and he had another guy that he was holding for a power slam. And fell forward and slammed them both at the same time. The War Raiders are very impressive. I still feel like when they come out, tonight maybe was like a turning point for them, because, I don't know, they come out and it just seems like the excitement isn't there. But, you know, for two bigger guys, they're pretty athletic. So, kind of like Killian Dane was the star of the WarGames match last year. I think in a lot of ways, you could argue that the War Raiders, this was sort of a good showcase for them here. I would say, I mean, when I look back, was there one sort of star of the match this year like Killian Dane was last year? I don't know. Maybe Pete Dunne when he finally came in. You could say maybe he was, but I don't know that there was any one person who necessarily comes out of it as the big star of the match. Bobby Fish came out. When he got called on, instead of running to the ring, he went over to the other shark cage where Pete Dunne was still locked up. And he put another padlock on to make sure that he couldn't get out. And so now Pete Dunne he had like a double lock on the cage. There was no way he could possibly get out. And Bobby Fish tossed the key into the crowd. And I think he should have swallowed it, like Killian Dane did last year. But on commentary, they pointed out, they said, WarGames cannot technically begin until all of the team members are in the ring. So this match may go on forever if Pete Dunne can't get himself out of that cage. So the referees are fumbling around. Oh, I can't get it open. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Maybe that's because the key got tossed into the crowd. So they go to find a pair of bolt cutters and they come back. And in the meantime, the babyfaces were being outnumbered and annihilated with steel chairs inside the cage. Finally, they cut the lock, and Pete Dunne limps down to the ring. Heels are barricading the door shut so he can't get in, and Dunne finds himself a kendo stick, fights his way inside. There was another spot here, I think it was Hansen, I want to say, who did a big splash from either the top rope or the middle. I think it was the top rope. Splash through a table. Kyle O'Reilly was laying on the table, and poor Kyle O'Reilly, he took the brunt of that big splash, only got a near fall out of it. So Adam Cole now, let's fast forward here. Adam Cole, he's on top of the cage, right? Just like he was last year. So Adam Cole's on top of the cage. Ricochet looks at this and basically says, I might enjoy myself up there. He climbs up there and joins him, and so they're slugging it out. And Roderick Strong climbs up there, and, they're it looks like they're trying to kind of push Ricochet out, because per the rules, if Ricochet were to fall to the ground, it kind of goes against conventional wisdom in a WWE cage match, where the objective is to leave the cage, and if your feet hit the floor, you win. But it was the opposite here. So if he would have hit the floor, his team would have lost. So he's fighting it and fighting it. And now everybody is coming over, because Adam Cole is dangling, right? He's dangling on the inside, but he's basically hanging from the top of the cage. And, the War Raiders come over, and anyway, this body's rushing over to the side of the cage. It turns into the biggest Tower of Doom spot that you've ever seen. Ricochet is the only person left on top of the cage. And everybody gets up down below, and they're, bracing themselves to catch this fucker. Who knows where he's going to land. And Ricochet does this flipping moonsault off the top of the cage because he's out of his friggin' mind. He probably rotated 4 or 5 times on the way down. He's lucky he didn't break his neck. If that were the Undertaker and Kane down below to catch him instead of these guys, he probably would be dead right now. But then they did this great standoff spot where you had the babyface team on the opposite end of the cage in one ring. The heels were on the opposite end of the cage in the other ring. They're staring each other down. The place is going nuts. They come to meet in the middle, face to face. They wait, 10 seconds. They're talking shit to each other. And then a gigantic brawl breaks out. And this is like 45 minutes into the match. And they had the crowd in the palm of their hand. You know what that reminded me of? I don't even know why I remember this, but that reminded me of the Go Home show, the final Raw before SummerSlam in 2010, where it was John Cena's team, and they went face-to-face with the Nexus. So you had John Cena was out there, Chris Jericho and Edge came down. Who else was there? Bret Hart. Talking about random. Bret Hart came out. He was part of the team. Just this big standoff. That's kind of what this reminded me of here. And everybody came to blows. Ricochet hit a springboard from the second ring back into the first ring. On his way in, though, on the springboard, Adam Cole hit him with a super kick on the way down. Pete Dunne comes in. He hits the bitter end on Adam Cole. Ricochet immediately lands with the 450 splash. Poor Adam Cole. And Dunne and Ricochet simultaneously cover Adam Cole, and they win the WarGames match. And then both guys pose with their respective championships on top of the cage to close out what was one of the greatest NXT TakeOver shows that this company has ever produced. I think match quality-wise, it's going to be tough to find another show of all the great takeovers we've had. I think that can measure up to this one. I thought this show had something for everybody. You know, you had Matt Riddle, the new guy, being put over like $1 million. You had great wrestling. If you're into weapons and brawling and stuff, you got that in the WarGames match. So I think, and even great storytelling, I think you got that in those middle matches, especially the Gargano and Aleister Black match, which was a nice payoff to that angle, if it is the payoff. So something for everybody on the show. There was some concern when the show was over. Some people were tweeting me images of Bobby Fish being helped out, something with his knee. Of course, he just came back. He was on the shelf for a very long time. I think he had ACL surgery on his knee, and there was a lot of concern. Apparently, Triple H has said that Bobby thought he re-injured his knee, but he's actually fine. Yeah, it was just him sort of getting all worked up and being afraid that he may have re-injured it, and he didn't. And he's okay, and so that's good news. As far as the Twitter poll goes, I'm just taking a look at the poll I threw up when the show ended, just to see what the results are so far. Poll's been up for less than an hour now, probably, and we have well over 2,000 votes, 97% thumbs up, 3% thumbs down. I don't know who these 3% are. Probably Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn and a bunch of their friends. I don't see how you could hate this show. I really don't. I mean, I don't do the thumbs in the middle thing, right? So you're either thumbs up or thumbs down. You didn't have to like everything on this show. It is subjective. And again, I could see where some people, well, this match was overbooked and this match was, too many kicking out of finishers. I think those are valid criticisms. I don't see how any true fan of the product, any true wrestling fan can watch this show and give it a thumbs down. That's my opinion on it. I don't see how this can be viewed in any way, shape, or form as anything but a thumbs-up show. And obviously, I give it a thumbs up. If you missed it, go back and watch it, because the main roster is going to have a tough time ahead of them if they're going to try to wipe the memory from people's brains of this show. See, I'd like to think that it's kind of a motivator for them. Like, they don't want to be shown up by friggin' NXT, right? 23-year-old guy and all these new guys, nobody wants to be shown up like that. So maybe it motivates them, There are some good matches on the card for the pay-per-view tonight. It's not like the whole card is a dud or anything like that. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get a good Survivor Series out of it, but I don't see that show topping this one. Watch for episode 573 of the Sound Off. That'll be going up today. And of course, tonight is the Survivor Series. As I'm recording this, I will have a review up for that as well. After the pay-per-view, that'll be up on the channel very early on Monday morning. So watch for that. Plenty of new content. Hit the sub button, and I will see you guys back here for more content later today. Take care, guys.